Welcome friends, this is Python for Everyone with another video tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to talk about functions. Functions are an essential way to reuse code. That is, to take code that works to do something useful and use it in many different places in your program. Every function has a name and every function has inputs and outputs. Think of a function as kind of a machine. You invoke that machine when you call its name, you give it inputs to process, and it gives you an output that's its result. Okay, I'm going to do this example on pythontutor.com. So let's go and enter our code. Okay, so you can see here that I have the code written out already. I'm going to talk about it for a minute. I've written the doAdd function. So my function starts with the word def and it's named doAdd. Inside of the parens are the variables a and b. Those variables are the inputs to this function. This function expects, in fact insists on, two different inputs that we have to supply at the point where we call the function. Down here on line 9, we call the function and we give it those same two inputs. In this case, those inputs are the variables num1 and num2. In a minute, we're going to look at how the values in num1 and num2 become the values in the variables a and b. And then finally, as our function concludes, we use the return function, or the return statement, to say, return this value back to the place where I was called. That takes the result of doAdd and treats it like an expression on the right side of an equal sign. What does that do? Well, that's going to put the value into result. Okay, so let's simulate this code and take a look at how it works. Okay, so we're going to start execution on line 1. I'm going to click next and we're going to jump all the way down to line number 7. What happened to the instructions in the doAdd function? Why did we skip over them? Well, line 1 only defines the doAdd functions. At the point where the function is defined, the instructions are not executed. The instructions aren't executed until we call doAdd on line 9. So the instructions are just there waiting for us to execute them, but they have not executed yet. And that's why we skipped from line 1 to line 7 without running any of the code inside of the doAdd function. So let's go to the next few lines. So we'll step next, and we've created num1 inside of our global frame. Now we've created num2 inside of our global frame, and now we get to the function call. So let's step over that and see where we go next. Aha! So we're back up to line 1 because the function is about to begin. The value in num1 became the value in A, and the value in num2 became the value in B. So in our global frame, we have these variables num1 and num2, which contain 100 and 200 respectively. And then in our doAdd frame, we have these variables a and b that contain 100 and 200. And here is one of the most important points about a function. The a and b variables are defined inside of the function. We're not going to be able to use the variables a or b or c outside of our doAdd function. It's like a little island. And at first, that's going to be pretty confusing to you because at this point, you maybe have only been doing programming at the top level, where you could use all your variables anywhere. Variables inside of a function are local only to that function. If it seems wrong at first, don't worry. Once you get used to programming with functions, you'll realize it's a very important feature. Now let's step through our function. So the first line in my function is called a docstring. A docstring is just a triple quoted string that describes what the function does. Having a docstring greatly increases the readability of a function. And in my class, I insist that every function you write has a docstring. So what does this line do? Well, we're going to create a variable called c that contains the sum of a and b. Well, 100 plus 200 equals 300. So here we can see in our function, in our doAdd function, the variable c has been created. Now just for fun, I'm going to print. The return statement says, take the value inside of c and give it back to the place where this function was called. The return value is 300. And now we've hopped back onto line 10. We just ran line 9. And take a look at what's in result. So I have a function now that takes two numbers as an input, adds those numbers together, and returns the result as its output. There is a whole lot to know about functions, and a whole lot more that you have to learn if you're going to really get good at using them. The key things to remember is that a function is a machine that takes inputs, as few or as many as you want, and produces an output in the form of a return value. You use a function by naming it, and you define a function using the def keyword. Looking for the code for this example? Well, you're going to find it in the comments below. Try punching it into Python Tutor and see if you can follow the execution around your program. Make changes to your function, see if you can see those changes reflected in the behavior of your program. Alright, well this has been another video tutorial. If you want to see more about functions and how they're used, go to my GitHub link in the description of this video, and you can go and look at the functions notebook in my Python for Everyone class. There you can see some more examples of how powerful functions are and how you use them in the Python programming language.